Alright, what's up guys, it's Heat. I wanted to do a video today on my Dual Flame Totem build that I did for Ambush. I wanted to do the challenge where you get to level 90 in Ambush, and this is the build that I wanted to do. I also had never done a Dual Totem build before and thought I would try it out, and I didn't actually want the damage penalty from using a spell totem, so I thought that this would probably be the best way to go. I guess I did also have Searing Bond, but I think overall you might be able to do more damage with this. Plus it's just more cool looking in my opinion. So basically, if you want to see how the build works and the flow of the build and kind of like clearing speeds and stuff like that, you can check out some of the videos that I in my channel that I put up. There's some videos on there with double shrine piety and just doing shrine in general. So you can check those out to see how it plays. So basically I'm just going to kind of go over the strengths and weaknesses of this build and take a look at my links and my gear and my thoughts overall in this build. So one of its main weaknesses is that it has trouble with ranged enemies. And you kind of have to basically work around that, and that's why I have, you can see here, Fire Trap. This actually helps deal with ranged enemies, and because you can just throw it and it does damage to the enemies, and you can kind of kill them faster with when you throw the totems down. So that's actually its biggest weakness, is basically that it has trouble with range, because it can a lot of ranged things attack quickly and it can do a lot of damage to your totems and take them out. So you kind of have to understand the enemy AI, and you have to be really good with your placement when it comes to having difficult mobs like that. In terms of strength, this build is very noob friendly. You don't need that much knowledge. You can kind of just flop down some totems and have them go to work for you. So, and then throw down some curses on top of that or something, and you're good to go. So it isn't really complex. There isn't a lot of layers to this build in terms of complexity and like synergies. So that could be a strength or a weakness, but I consider that a strength, considering how much DPS this build does. Additionally, another strength is it has multiple layers of defensive options. So one layer is basically one totem itself. So when you toss down a totem, generally it de-aggroes enemies off you and basically aggroes enemies onto itself. So that's one. Another one is you have two of them, right? So now you have two totems that distract enemies, so that's two, right? Another one is I built this for kind of decent block chance. So that's the third one. You have block, and then another one is that you can use blind on your totems to blind all enemies, and because they attack so fast, it's pretty crazy. Like, I mean, these defensive options make you pretty safe for most of the time. And the other one is I do have lightning warp for quick traveling very quick, but that's not very build specific. That can work in almost any build. It's just a preference gem, but there are a lot of defensive options in this build. Additionally, this build is dual cursing right now at level 90, so you can actually do like chains and Enfeeble on top of all what I just said, so you're sitting pretty sweet defensively. I did build this build from the ground up as an invasion build, because I normally don't play softcore. I just wanted the challenge. However, I thought it would be a good testing grounds to see how well this build does endgame and if it can do it Zeri. At this moment in time, this build cannot solo it Zeri, but I think it can do it in a group pretty easily because of the blind and because of the DPS output. If we look at my DPS, roughly, I generally roll with faster projectiles instead of blind. So if we look at my DPS right here, we have 2100 DPS, and since it has GMP, you multiply it times 5, so you're looking at 21 times 5, and then there's 2 totems times 2, you're looking around 20 to 21,000 DPS when it's shotgunning on one enemy. You can also dual wield, so if you want even more, you can get like another decent like scepter and dual wield, and basically it brings it up to around, like, depending on how good your scepter is. I have a not so good one, and when I equip it, it brings me up to 2500 DPS, so that's, you're looking at probably 25,000 DPS on this Flame Totem build. Now, in terms of ambush, that's probably not that much DPS, because you can go crazy with like crit and stuff, but this wasn't really built for ambush, really. Has a lot of health, and it has a good balance that you actually need for playing hardcore, and I played it like I would have a hardcore character. Yeah, so basically I would say at level 85 this build is complete. Anything past that is just added bonuses to the build itself. If we look at the skill tree, at level 85 this thing would look, basically I wouldn't have Hexmaster and all the passives leading up to Hexmaster. So it would look like this, minus these 2, 4, 5 points. And basically I chose Scion because I thought Path of the Savant and I was going to go with Harrier. I initially did, but I spec'd out of them, and I thought it'd be stronger than the Witch Start, but I'm actually not sure if that's the case. If you want to optimize this build, you probably want to go Witch. I would say it's probably better, although I'm not entirely sure. If it is better, it's probably a nominal difference, and it's not that big of a deal. So basically, the way I started is I immediately went to Ancestral Bond and picked up any health nodes on the way. I leveled as Searing Bond until pretty late, because Flame Totems don't become good or better than Searing Bond until like around level 80, something like that. So I think I made the switch around level 80. The nice thing about this build is that cast speed double downs on your DPS and casting your totems themselves. So for example, cast speed will increase the speed at which they cast the flame itself, and the speed at which you cast the totem. So it's quite substantially fast. So I will post a link to this passive tree in the description so you can check it out. I'm also going to probably post this build on the official forums with a more in-depth guide and link all my items specifically. The only other thing that you do need for this build is, because if you look, 2 totems basically drains your mana completely. You need a saturated, basically, mana flask. So basically this one has 50% increased amount recovered and 33% reduced recovery speed. So basically if I throw it down, I can keep continuously casting
more to give.
totems for a while. You can get like 10, 15 casts out of it. Something like that. That's pretty crazy. That's the only pot really that's required. The other stuff is preference. This is a defensive pot, but you don't really need it if you don't want that flask. You can go roll with whatever. So yeah, that's basically kind of required in terms of how I built this. If we take a look at my gear, this was probably the most expensive piece of gear that I bought. Yeah, I think it was 10 to 15 chaos. I don't really remember. It's pretty good. I would say I got a really good deal on it. It's probably worth 15 to 25 chaos, something like that. And another strength of this build is that it's really, really cheap. So everything on here probably was less than, I would say, 35, 40 chaos, less than that, maybe even less than 30 chaos. And for less than 30 chaos and those defenses, and that DPS, I would say that's pretty strong considering it can do endgame maps, it can do Dominus, it can do Courtyard, it can do Piety Shrine, so it's pretty strong. So I have this. For the shield, I have Lionized Remorse. Now, in Invasion, this shield would be a lot more, but you don't really need the shield. It's just kind of a nice added armor, so you can do physical mitigation, but it's not really necessary. In Invasion, it's like 1 to 2 exalts, I think. But in Ambush, if you're doing this in Ambush, you can get one for 3 chaos to 5 chaos, something like that. They go for pretty cheap. This helmet was self-found, nothing that great. This was 5 chaos, I think. These were 1 chaos. This was self-found. This ring was 2 chaos. That was self-found, and these boots were 7 chaos, something like that. So this build, and if you're dual wielding, if you're dual cursing, I'm sorry, this is, I think, like 3 to 5 chaos, something like that. So essentially, it's everything's pretty cheap. You don't actually need a 4-link, a 5-link to do this build. You can actually run it in 4. If you do run it in 4, it'll probably look something like this, and your DPS will go down a little bit, but you're still in the 20k range with only 4 links, which is kind of insane. This armor is pretty nice, although I got really lucky on it. I actually bought it there were no links on it. I bought it for 2 chaos, 6 socketed it in like 40 jewelers, and then 5 linked it in under like 20 fusings, something like that. So it's pretty crazy. I got lucky on that. So that's basically the build. If you guys have any questions, just post them in the comments, and I'll get to them. If not, you can check out the thread that will be in the description, and you can check out the passive tree on there. All right, cool. Thanks for watching, guys.